Are you a WWE superstar or former WWE superstar?
I'm CM Punk. I'm just a superstar.
Do you think there's ever a chance we'll see you back in a squared circle?
No.
Never?
No.
Wow.
Never, ever. Never, ever, ever.
Right,
they're gonna go crazy about
They
that
really
on
are.
Twitter.
They really
are. They're gonna like hold me to it, and they're gonna yeah, whatever.
Punk, thanks so much for your time.
The truth. I'm home.
I'm tired of being humble. I'm tired of letting people think they got a chance. The tribal chief is head and shoulders above everybody.
Hey, guys, we here at the locker room. It's Toss Ring Scandal. We'll talk about shocker when CM Punk tore his tricep at the Royal Rumble 2024. CM Punk tricep injury analysis. You guys get the likes as you come to the locker room. We are going to definitely air some dirty laundry on this one. We're talking about the 2024 Royal Rumble injury of CM Punk. But before, we'll talk about his accomplishments: WWE champion, World Heavyweight champion, ECW champion, AEW champion, ROH World champion, two-time Money in the Bank ladder match winner. CM Punk, I didn't realize, is very few men to accomplish certain championships in his career, and the only man to have the Money in the Bank contract back-to-back years in a row. Accomplishes in 2008 and 2009 Money in the Bank matches. Now, we will have a couple doctors talk about the tricep and how this injury occurred with CM Punk at the Royal Rumble.
Tom Denisowitz with Rosti. Today we're going to be discussing bicep and tricep tendonitis. We'll talk about some of the common causes to this condition, as well as some of the common signs and symptoms that may indicate you have this condition. Additionally, we'll talk about how traditional healthcare handles these injuries, and how at Rosti we're just a little bit different. Let's get started. The bicep tendon is the tendon that attaches the bicep muscle, or the muscle in front of the arm, to the top of the shoulder. It sits in a bony groove called the bicipital groove. The tricep muscle is on the posterior side of the upper arm, and it attaches to the top of the shoulder. This area can take on microtrauma and get irritated for a number of different reasons. Mechanical flaws or imbalances, such as tightness in the top of the shoulder or weakness in the rotator cuff muscles, can cause irritation to this area. We also can see overuse, such as in overhead athletes, like baseball players, tennis players, and swimming. Lastly, a sudden trauma, such as catching a load that's a little bit too heavy, can be something that would irritate this area. Bicep tendonitis typically is going to have pain in the front of the shoulder. This is going to be worsened with overhead movements, such as washing your hair or putting on a shirt. It also could get worse when you turn your arm in, such as turning a doorknob or typing at the computer. Tricep tendonitis is often going to be in the back of the shoulder and typically will be made worse by reaching, such as reaching into the backseat of your car. Both of these conditions can limit the range of motion of your shoulder. Now let's discuss how traditional healthcare typically handles bicep and tricep tendonitis. You may be asked to rest from your activities. You may be prescribed ice or over-the-counter prescription medications. And in some cases, it could be recommended that you have an injection in the area. At Rosti, every patient receives an hour of one-on-one time with our treatment teams. We go through a thorough evaluation, which includes range of motion, functional, and orthopedic testing to come to a proper diagnosis and help get to the root cause of your pain. You'll then receive hands-on manual therapy to address any soft tissue component with your injury, and you'll receive active care, which are stretches and exercises to help maintain the progress of your treatment between visits.
Here to suffer a significant triceps injury at this point in Royal Rumble against Drew McIntyre. And in this video, we're going to take a look at how exactly this injury happened and the anatomy of what's going on. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Suter, and my goal in this channel is to teach you about the medical side of the sports world. Now, I know I don't do a lot of wrestling content, but pretty big story here with CM Punk injuring his triceps. The triceps rupture is not something that we really, I don't think I've ever talked about on the channel. So let's dive into what happened here to get a better understanding of this injury. For those wondering why I don't cover more wrestling, simply it's hard to know what's a real injury and what's just part of the act, so to speak. Because I'll be honest, when I heard about this news with CM Punk, but then watched the sequence against Cody Rhodes back, we see here almost at the very end of the fight where Punk is actually doing a pretty legitimate push-up. Now, to of course do a push-up, that's going to require extension of that upper extremity. The injury was on Punk's right triceps, and so if we look here at his right arm, you see in this position the elbow is flexed, and then in order to do a push-up, lift himself up off the canvas, he has to activate that tricep to get some degree of elbow extension to let him push back up. And so I saw this and my first reaction was, boy, unless we see a clear moment where that tricep ruptured, this honestly might be something that is just part of a storyline. I will say, looking back in hindsight, maybe there is a little bit of a depression there, a little bit of decreased contour and flattening where the triceps tendon inserts from the backside of the upper arm down onto the elbow. But when I saw this, my first thought was, man, that would be really hard to do if somebody's had a complete triceps rupture. Now, if you've had just a high-grade partial tear where there's still some tendon intact, this is going to be really painful, but probably still doable. He doesn't seem to be compensating much onto his left side. And so I was really shocked to see what he was able to do against Cody Rhodes, despite having already suffered this significant triceps injury. Of course, tonight, though, we see Punk come out wearing appropriately a sling on that right arm. I couldn't quite tell if he's in some sort of a splint. We might put somebody in a posterior splint that just is a rigid slab on this backside of the elbow just to help support things until having a surgery. But it seems pretty apparent now that, yes, this does seem to have been a real injury. Next, we're going to walk through the sequence where the injury, I think, occurred. But first, I want to give a quick rumble against Drew McIntyre where supposedly this injury occurred, and I'd believe it based on what we see. Remember that tendons typically rupture whenever they are eccentrically loaded. So, for example, a triceps tendon, typical mechanism is going to be doing an overhead press where your arms come back down behind you. So when your elbow flexes over your head, that's stretching the triceps tendon on the back of your triceps, coming down and inserting on this bump called the olecranon. And then as you're going down, you're still trying to fire the triceps to slow that descent. And then as you start to push back up, you concentrically activate that triceps after it's been stretched, leading to higher risk of a rupture. Whenever we look this play through here, what we'll see is Punk goes down and lands with a lot of his weight coming down on a flexed or a bent right elbow. So quick camera change here from this back angle. Then as we go over to the side, we see that he's landing with that elbow flexed. So he's landing with that elbow flexed. And whenever this occurs, he's going to just reflexively try and fire that triceps to stabilize his fall. If he doesn't fire his tricep to try and help brace some of that fall, his head's going to continue going into the canvas. And so it's just this reflexive activation of his triceps. And if we play this through really slow, remember when tendons rupture, we usually see some sort of a defect, a bulge, something like that. And they don't necessarily see the clear snap, but right here, you see how there's this little prominent point. If we go back up a little bit, everything looks nice and flat. And then as he puts more weight down, we see this little prominence. And it does look like there's been some subtle flattening right there where the triceps tendon is going to insert. Again, as he's rolling over, we see that sharp peak right there, suggestive that there's some tendon that's retracted higher up near the shoulder where the triceps originates. And then as Punk rolls over, we see him right away grab at that spot of the upper arm where the triceps is going to insert. So I would very much believe, seeing everything now, looking back here at this in slow-mo, that this was probably the moment where his tricep ruptured. He's trying to brace his fall. As he braces his fall right there, the elbow comes down. Triceps is going to fire to try and support, to try and brace him, but there's nowhere for the elbow to extend, so it's trying to fire against a rigid elbow. That activation causes force to go through the triceps tendon, and there was probably some tendonitis. There was probably some chronic wear and tear on that tendon beforehand, making it weaker. And then we see a little bit of that peak there, a little bit of that bulge as he eventually rolls over, suggesting the tendon.
McIntyre, future shock!
All right, guys, that's all we have regarding Shocker when CM Punk tore his tricep. CM Punk tricep injury analysis. Thank you to Arasati Rehab Centers and Dr. Brian Suterer, MD, to covering an analysis of that tricep injury. But we glad that CM Punk came back to WWE. He's wrestling and he's healthy, you know, but for a man to say he would never, ever return to wrestling, he's here now. Soon, 2 videos will pop up, guys. You guys click the links below. Until then, you already know what it is. OUT.